Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsea. For today's video, I wanted to share with you two things. The first being that Sale-a-bration is almost over, and so I wanted to use one of the new Sale-a-bration stamp sets that was in the second release. And so if you don't have this one, I really love it, and I think that it's perfect for male gender cards. So I wanted to use that and show you some new ways of using it. So this is the stamp set. It's called Well Dressed, and you can get it for free with a $50 purchase of Stampin' Up products. And you can purchase those products through my online store, and there is a link in the description box below. Now, the second thing I wanted to share with you was kind of a new idea that I came up with, where we're going to use the same 5 pieces of cardstock. We're going to be creating 3 different layouts using those same pieces of cardstock. So let's go ahead and look at the cardstock we'll be using today. So we have a card base, and I've got 3 of those, all the same size and same color. So we've got a card front that we're going to be stamping on, and it's 3.5 by 5.25, and that's a little bit smaller than the normal size of card front. So the third piece we have is for our greeting, and it is 1 5/8 inches by 3 inches. Then we're using some of the fun Country Club Designer Series paper. And I love how well this coordinates with the stamp set. And then a really tiny strip. And this is 1/4 inch by 5.25. We do have a little bit of extra stamping, so you'll just need some scrap paper in Whisper White for this as well. Okay, so let's start with this card. So the layout is vertical, and we're stamping all the images on the right side of our paper, and then we're adding the DSP and this strip of black vertically to the left, and then the greeting is vertical as well. And this greeting comes from the Itty Bitty Birthdays stamp set, which is a really fun one. And this is where we're getting all of our greetings today. So the inks we're using Night of Navy, Garden Green, Crushed Curry, and Smoky Slate, and Poppy Parade. So these are all the colors that coordinate with the Designer Series paper. Okay, so we're now ready to stamp. I've opened up all my ink pads, and I've placed the images on the clear blocks. We're gonna go ahead and start with the shoe, and I've stamped this in the Night of Navy. And we're just stamping it about 3 times randomly, and we're gonna try to keep most of our images to the right side of our paper. Now this Night of Navy ink smears very easily, so just make sure that you don't touch it after you stamp it. Okay, the next one we're going to do is the hat, and that's in Crushed Curry. And we're just starting with these 2 images because they're the largest, and so we need to make sure we give them the space they need. Okay. The next one we'll do is the watch, and the watch is in the Garden Green. And this is just kind of a really fun image. You can kind of place it in any angle. So the next one we'll do is the pen, and this is in Poppy Parade. Just kind of filling in those spaces that we've created. And then lastly, we're going to do the keys, and this is in Smoky Slate, and it's just kind of little fun thing we're adding kind of randomly. I guess they're all kind of random, but just in some of those spaces that feel like they might be a little too big, you can just place them. Like that. Okay, so those images for this card are done. Let's go ahead and do the images, since we have our stamps out, for the next card. So we do need another piece of the Whisper White, and we're stamping these horizontally. So we're going to start with the shoe, and that is in the blue, Night of Navy as well. And you can stamp that across your card. Try to get kind of 3 images across. The next one we're going to do is the umbrella, and we're going to do this one in Garden Green. So ink that up. And this is a little tricky. I'm actually going to remove this tie so I can see the umbrella. We're going to put that on straight. Okay, so ink it up, and then you just kind of want to place it so it's kind of centered on the card. And you're going to want to try to keep it nice and straight across your card. But if it's not, that's okay. If you want, you can use your Stamparatus, but it's going to give you bigger gaps between the image. That's up to you. Okay. So you can see that they kind of move a little bit, and it ended up a little higher than I started. And then we're going to add the hat next, and that's in the crushed curry again. Oops. And you just kind of tilt it at an angle so that it kind of will squeeze in there. And you're going to want to get 3 as well. Okay. We could add another one down here if we wanted. You could do the pen. That might be fun. Let's do the pen, just for a little touch of red. And since we have the space. So we're going to just squeeze that in between the umbrella and the shoe. Perfect. Okay. So that stamping's done. And then the next thing we need to do is get the scrap paper. And we're going to stamp a couple things that we will fussy cut out. So we need, for this card, we're going to need 1 hat, 1 umbrella, and 1 shoe. So let's do that. So 1 shoe. We'll do the hat next, and then 1 umbrella. Maybe we should do a pen as well, since we already used that. Okay, so we've got those pieces for this card. And then on our third card, we are just using images that we fussy cut. And so we've got another shoe, a hat, and the watch. And then we have the tie, and the umbrella is actually in red this time. So we will need to clean that one. So let's do that. So a shoe, a hat, and the watch in green, and, oh, that's right, We've got the tie, and that's in blue again. And then the umbrella is in red. Perfect. Okay, so I think we're done stamping with the colors. And now we're going to stamp. We've got some smoky slate and some black. Okay, so keep your smoky slate out and you'll need some black ink. And I'm going to be using the Memento. So you're going to need to have one of your white strips and one of your gray strips. And we're using this pattern that comes in the stamp set. And with the smoky slate, we're going to be stamping this pattern over that. Let's start with our Smoky Slate Cardstock. So the pattern is going vertically across the cardstock. So ink that up. And then again, this doesn't need to be perfect. This is just a design that's in the background. Okay, so I'm just going to center this on the block so that I can see it a little better. So just try to line it up the best you can and stamp it across. Like that. Okay, and then on this white piece, we're going to flip it and we're going to do it horizontally. And we're going to switch the directions. So we'll start with whatever side you want, but the bottom for me is going to the left. And we're just going to repeat this pattern all the way across. And then we're going to flip it and do it on the other side. And then flip it again and repeat. And then repeat one more time. Okay. So there is the pattern for our background for the Whisper White. Oops. So that gray is done. And next we're going to stamp our greetings, and then we will be done stamping and we can put our cards together. So the first greeting we're going to do is awesome at any age. And that's just going to go at the bottom of one of these Smoky Slate cardstocks at the when it's placed vertically. Like that. So for our next card, we're going to use two greetings. We're going to use the happy birthday and it's your day. And it's going on the plain smoky slate. And it's going to be stamped horizontally. So the happy birthday is a little higher and centered. And then it's your day is below that. And for our last one, we're going to do Let's Celebrate You. And we want this just a little higher than center. If we put it at center, it feels a little low. Like that. Okay, so all of our stamping is done and we're now ready to begin assembling and cutting for our cards. So let's start with this layout. So we're using the same 5 pieces of cardstock, and so we're just going to be arranging them differently. We've got our card base. So the first thing we're going to add is the colorful DSP from the Country Club, and you can just add this to the left side of your card base. Leave a little border. The next piece would be the stamped Whisper White cardstock. And this is going on the right side and overlapping that designer series paper. So make sure that you overlap that and then open it up and rub the back. And the reason we're not rubbing the stamped images is because we don't want them to bleed. Add your basic black strip to in between where the 2 cardstocks meet. And you can either layer it over the white or you can put it over both pieces. I'm just layering it over the white because I want to see as much of that color as I can. And then the last thing is the greeting, and this gets added with some dimensionals. And this just gets centered on the card. You want it to come over that black strip just slightly, so that you can still see some of the color on the left and the images on the right. Okay, so that card is done. I love how the colors all coordinate, but you get a really fun design. Okay, so let's work on this second card. So we've got our card base, and we're keeping our Whisper White cardstock vertical, and this can just go right down in the center of our card. So next we're going to use this green plaid to kind of coordinate with the other colors, and it's going to go in the center of our card, and we're going to have a little strip left off that we can just trim. So add that with some snail. And then add the black in the center. And then grab a pair of snips and flip it over and trim off that extra cardstock and these designer series paper. And then we can add the greeting with some dimensionals. And just place it so that it's centered on the card. Now, if you like it this way, you can totally keep it. You don't need to fussy cut out those images, but if you want to add a little extra pop, we're going to go ahead and fussy cut out. We're just going to cut out everything, and then we'll be able to make our third card. And I'm just going to pause the video and then come back when I am done cutting out all these images. Okay, so we're back and we have cut out all of our images. So let's go ahead and add them to our card. So the first one I'm going to add is this shoe, and I'm just going to place it with a dimensional over the stamped shoe here. And it just kind of comes off a little bit, which is a fun little element. Let's add a hat. So this one I wanted to add up in the right side, so it's going to kind of come off my card slightly. So again, I'm going to open it up, grab my snips, and trim that off. And then let's add a pen. So this is a skinny little element. So I'm going to actually trim one of my dimensionals. So on the side, I've just trimmed off one of those border pieces. And that will give me just the right amount for the back of my pen. And I'm actually going to add it here because this is so small. So then you just kind of lay it on top so it matches. And then lastly, I'm going to add a green umbrella. I'm not going to put any dimensionals on it, just a little bit of snow along that thicker part. And I want it at an angle like that. Okay, so this card is really fun. This one was actually my husband's favorite card. He liked the repetition and how it was a little bit unique. So for our last card, we're going to take these other elements that we fussy cut and add them around our birthday greeting. So this card is horizontal, and it does have a similar feeling to the first card with the designer series paper on the left or on the bottom, but it's a wider piece. So we're using that whole inch of designer series paper, and then we're doing something different with the stamped images. So this is going to go down first. And that's just going at the top with a little border around it. And then our designer series paper is going at the bottom. Just make sure that it is covering, and you leave a little border as well. Add your black strip, and this time I'm adding it right onto the white so it doesn't cover the designer series paper at all, because I want it to be as much of that paper that I can see as possible. Okay, next we're going to add the birthday greeting. And that's just going to sit to the right of center with a little bit of space above that black. And now we're going to add our elements, and some are added with dimensionals and some are not. So let's add the umbrella first, and that's going at an angle on the left side, and then the watch. That did not get a lot of. Okay, and that's going at an angle as well in the center. Next we'll need some dimensionals, and I'm going to use the mini dimensionals for this tie. Just one at the top and one at the bottom. And we're just going to place it at an opposing angle to the umbrella. And then the hat, and we can use the regular size dimensionals for that. And that's going over the greeting slightly. And then lastly, we have the shoe. And that's just down here. There we go. Okay, so that is our last card. So those are all of our cards using the same 5 pieces of cardstock. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, and share. Visit creativechelsea.com for a free tutorial of this project and to purchase the supplies needed. Have a creative day. Bye.